8 years ago, I was going through a dark time in my life. I was facing a major decision and feeling a deep desire to move beyond being a stay-home mom. And it felt like I was living in a cave and no light in sight, just a quiet search for meaning of life. Then I met a young woman at an event. She was living life to the fullest, and I could feel it. I remember holding 10% jealousy for her youthful spirit and 90% pure admiration for the light and positivity she radiated. Fast forward 8 years, as I launched this brand new podcast, I had the incredible opportunity to sit down with her and finally uncover what gives her that unmistakable zest for life. Welcome to the Soft Power Project, the podcast that journals the story of women as they navigate their own transformations. I'm Sherry, a certified coach and your host. In my mid-30s, I made the bold decision to reinvent my life. Now in my 40s, I'm sharing that journey along with the stories of women who inspire me. Like you, we're embracing growth to become our highest selves. Let's celebrate the power of self-exploration, one story at a time. Hi everyone, welcome back to Soft Power Project. Today I'm joined by beautiful Anne, and the way I would describe her, I think of her, she is sunshine, joyful, magnetic, and absolutely beautiful. And actually, I have to say, tell the story again, and it's going to embarrass you again. I met Anne, and she didn't know this. Well, she didn't remember. But I met her actually 7 or 8 years ago at an event, I think it's a coaching workshop. And it was my first time really dip my toes in the workshop or coaching field. And I just remember this girl, beautiful, young girl, and she was an entrepreneur. And the way she talks about her business and her life, just with so much joy. And I just really remembered her. And her name is Anne, and that's all I knew. And for some reason, we were connected on LinkedIn. And 8 years later, I launched this podcast, and she left a comment on my LinkedIn. And I went, well, this is the time. I got to interview her. So we had a kind of a pre-recording chat, and I told her about this story, and I probably embarrassed you, but I'm so glad you're here. I feel like this is like a full circle moment for me. So, hi, Anne. Did I embarrass you?
Thank you so much. And I'm super grateful to be here. It's definitely not embarrassed. It's more like gratitude, and also feeling like, wow, I actually do remember. Like it was very subtle, right? But it's like certain memories, like when you hit them, then you're like, oh yeah, I remember. I believe it was a design thinking workshop.
It is.
It was hosted by Cheers. And I was invited by my then he wasn't my CMO yet. He's no longer now either. But that time he told me to go to this. And so I went there, and then I met you. And we did a series of different activities there. And I just remembered you saying to me, I remember you. And I was like so shocked because I remembered seeing your podcast and I was like, wow, soft power. And I just loved your cover photo. I loved like the vibe that you were giving. And so when you told me that like you remember me, I was like, she got the wrong person. But then you're like, no, you did like sustainable fashion, did like design. And I was like, and education. I was like, okay, that's definitely me because it's rare to have these things together in one person. So yeah, thank you so much. It means a lot. Full circle for me too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that means that when I talk to people, I always tell them it's not really about what you say that leave them some sort of memory. It's really the energy, right, that you give out. And I think you gave out such an amazing energy. It was just so beautiful that I kept that
Oh my
in me
gosh.
for a long time.
Wow.
And so I'm so happy that you're here. And I so wanted to talk to you about your journey from entrepreneur all the way now. You are a life coach. You're doing series of workshops, and your program name is All in Secure Love, right? And yeah, I wanted to start with who's Anne and what makes you you? Because you're wearing so many different hats, but they all fit perfectly together.
I think I would describe myself at the core of my being is probably an educator. I think the education part comes from not knowing enough about, who I was, who I am. I think as a third culture kid, I was born in, a little bit background. I was born here in Taipei. And then at 9 months old, after a huge major surgery, I almost died. So when I was born, I don't know what this is called, but it's like when your intestines are tangled up. And my parents, like my mom didn't know what was wrong with me. And then, there was this day when I started to like internally bleed. And my grandmother was actually flying in from overseas at this time. And she's like very well connected to a few doctors and all this. And I just remembered hearing them say that my grandmother was on her flight back. And then immediately she was like going to Majie Hospital, which is a really famous hospital in Taipei. And that day, it was like, I think like midnight. They took me to the hospital, they got me an x-ray, and they found out that it was tangled. And they tried to like do everything that they could without surgery. But like I was like 8 months or something like this, 8, 9 months old. And then they basically did surgery that night. And I survived. They were saying that if it took one more day, I would be gone. I wouldn't live. And so my grandmother was really, because she has so many grandkids and children, she had 7 kids, amazing woman. She just thought that Taiwan was probably a better place for adults at the time. So it was like in the 90s, 80s, 90s. And South Africa and Taiwan were in good relations back then. And so, she brought a couple of her kids and grandkids to live in South Africa. So from when I was very little, I just remembered, like not being very outspoken. I was outspoken, but I was very scared to share a lot of things with people. Like I think in a way quite guarded because, in a way I'm protecting who I am from this like outside world. And, and constantly people are looking at you, they're looking at you differently, right? Like you look Asian and they look not Asian. And in my entire primary school, I think there were only 4 Asians and I knew all of them because one was my sister and the other one was, somebody else and their sibling. So, I would say like just from a young age, constantly questioning my identity. But I think most of all is like later on when my mom remarried, my stepdad is a research professor in the field of physics and mathematics. And, he was actually 10 years younger than my mom. They met in Taipei. He was teaching at Taida, National Taiwan University. And then very soon, like we were on our way to the States. After 10 years of living in South Africa, we moved to the States in North Carolina. And then in North Carolina, it was just me, my stepdad, and my sister because my mom had a business in Taiwan. So she constantly had to travel. And then so I think you can kind of like picture this kid who's like the younger sibling with her older sibling. We would travel from like South Africa to Taiwan to probably go through, Thailand, Hong Kong, Singapore as a stopover, and then we'll come back and then we have to do the same thing back. So it was constantly like that. And then, I lived in 6 different countries, studied in 7. I know that sounds kind of ridiculous, and every time you go into a new environment, it's the same thing, right? You have to fit in. I'll share later on why this is really related to what I'm doing now. And I think from then, that time on, I was always quite immersed in the cultures that I was in. I think I was always quite open-minded. I wasn't someone that really just stuck to myself only. But at the same time, I was also very timid. Like in class, I remembered when there were like presentations or something like that, I literally wanted to throw up, So for me to be a public speaker is kind of funny. And then in university, I think that's really the pivoting point for me was when I decided to study design. And I also studied industrial design, even though my major was communication design. And I just remembered industrial design just like mind-blowing. That you could literally, it's like how everything in the world is created is from nothing. And I just remembered, as I think that time when I met you was at the very early stages of my starting career. And I remember sharing with people like, design thinking is really important. I was teaching kids at this time simultaneously with, previous to that, I was at a design firm. And then from the design firm, I was also teaching. So I was constantly, teaching, working, same time. And then I just remembered when I was invited to teach fashion design, I was like, well, I'm not from fashion, even though I did some modeling and all this kind of stuff. And I love fashion myself. But I was like, what can I actually do to support these? Like, it was 9 to 12-year-olds at an experimental elementary school. And I was thinking, these kids really need critical thinking. And what can teach critical thinking the best is industrial design. And that's design thinking. Because for someone that lived all over the world, my mind was constantly very messy. I constantly was questioning my identity, questioning what's right and wrong. I lacked discernment. Like, Western and Eastern culture philosophies are very different. The way you were brought up, I was constantly between worlds. So design thinking really made me organize. I was able to sort of like organize into sections, compartmentalize and tag them, hashtag this, hashtag that. And then I was able to then actually move towards executing these ideas and these projects. Whereas, before it was like there was an overload of information and I felt very stuck. And I think when you're growing up as children, now as an educator that taught so many, like a wide age range, I can say that it starts young. And, when you're a child, you can't regulate yourself. So you're constantly seeking, regulation from your, co-regulation from your parents. But what if they're not there? People are so busy. And then at the same time, when you go to school, if you get a great teacher who's really compassionate, understanding of your time frame, your developmental time frame, then you're very lucky. But as we know, even if you're an adult by the age, like you're an adult age, like 18 and above, it doesn't mean that you have the ability to co-regulate because you might be coming from a family that didn't know how. And, nobody told you how. And the status quo is just like, just do things, just get things done and be goal-oriented, right? I think that's very damaging. And so having these different frameworks allowed me to step back, really look at the problem. I guess like being more present, being able to say, you know what, this is separated stuff, right? Like I have my own feelings, but I also have a task. Yeah. But how can I also include my feelings with the task? And that's really where you use design thinking. Yeah. How do you combine two things together to create an alternative, better, more whole outcome that is beneficial to both people, both parties, the world, or whatever? Right. And people often ask me, what is the biggest difference between art and design? I will say art is like your spirit. It's like who you are. It doesn't matter what people think, like that is who you are. And I've always loved painting and like drawing and all this. But design is very solution oriented and there is a right and wrong. Right. Because you're problem solving. And there's a right way to problem solve and there's a wrong way to problem solve. And it's important to understand that when you're doing something, you have to think about the why. You have to understand that everything has a consequence. Yeah. Everything has a reason of why it ended up this way or why it affects people when you track it back to the root cause. Mm-hmm. And as I, from this like design thinking, it then furthered me into frameworks and mindsets. I think this as a consultant too, that, you're meeting different people all the time. And different people need different solutions. They need different ways of being communicated to. And so, through this journey, I would say I picked up a lot of like various different frameworks, various different methodologies. I created my own methodology called Squidge, actually, which I can share a little bit later. But the whole thing is just, I was like, dude, this is so great. Like these frameworks, like why are they not known? Why do people only use them in like a specific area? And then I started teaching personal development with them. Right. And then later on I found out, there are these books like, for example, like Stanford D School, and there's like Design Your Life. I haven't read them actually. I never got around to them, but I know that the mindset is the same, which is how do you apply it to your life? How do you like reconstruct, like break it down, reconstruct, come up with very different ideations, and then you pivot until you find something that is fitting and that is like a product market fit for your life.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's basically a long spiel about these frameworks. Yeah.
So I'm really interested because you mentioned the word when you were in so many different countries, and my gosh, like, and I don't think I know anyone that had to travel to so many different places and just to different cultures. But you said that your mind were messy, right?
Yeah.
And I just walk me through the moment where you kind of realized that my mind is so messy, but now I found out about this way that I can actually structure my thoughts. Was there a moment where you go, oh my goodness, this is what I need? Or because I kind of feel like when you're a kid, then, yes, our mind, we're a bit messy, it was unstructured. But at a time, sometimes if you're not really aware that's a problem, then it's okay. Was there a moment that you're aware that that's an issue that I wanted to resolve?
I think the moment, there were several moments, right? Because, people will put a little tag on you like, oh, you're the younger one, you're more rebellious, you can't focus, all these different like a problem kid, right? You have so many opinions, so many ideas, so many things. Like, can you just pick one? But what if I can't just pick one? What if they're all me? It's like a puzzle, right?
Right.
And that's actually how I see my life right now. It's a puzzle. And there's different sections and different tones. And you find the different pieces at different times.
Yeah.
And then you match them. And I think the moment was when I did enter university and I learned about this design thinking. And then actually design thinking is perfect. If you have ADHD, if you have any of these, like, if you can't focus, it is a perfect way to get yourself organized, because what it does is that, the moment where you sort of like lay out the key foundational pieces and you start like, you just allow yourself, don't think about why you feel the way you do, just do it. And I know they do this in therapy as well, and it's a different title. But basically it's saying, don't rationalize or question yourself too much for why you want to do something. Just write it down. Right. Because your body, the reason why you have all these different feelings and emotions and these urges to create is because it's what you need to do. And your mind and your heart is constantly telling you, like try. And when you keep silencing it, you either become very depressed or angry. So the moment was, I was like, I'm just allowing myself to just be, right? And then I started like writing and all these things. And my whole paper, I think I wrote like 10, 20 papers, like worth of A4. Just like, okay, I'm just organizing them into different brands because I'm a communication designer. So brand development is very important. I need the whole entire thing to be cohesive. So then I would organize, why am I doing this? Who does it affect? What are the ways that I can make this happen to help people? And then I'll be like, okay, this solution out of all these solutions is best fitting or most fitting. And then you do this like, to 10, 20, imagine like 20 pieces of paper, 20 different brands, right? And then you look through them again, and then you sort of pick the ones that are most resonating again in a week or 2 weeks or a month. And then you start being like, oh, because the thing is like, we just need to release it. Once it's released, what actually sticks is what you also have the skills to complete. So if you don't have the skills naturally, it would be very, very daunting. But it's not daunting in a way that is exciting, daunting, like, wow, new challenge. It's more like, oh, I don't have these skill sets. And it's really, really tiring and depressing to think about them. You might just need to get it out of your system. And then the ones that stick are the ones that are like, wow, actually, I can see myself doing this in like 10 years, actually. Like this feeds my spirit. It feeds me energy. So the time that happened was around, I would say 20. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that timeline. 20, you found out about this design thinking.
Yes.
And that's when you started kind of the startup career.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. 100%. Yeah.
Right. Can you tell me and describe that feeling? Because you mentioned that puzzle. And I think this probably resonate with a lot of people. We do feel like life, it's like different pieces of puzzles. And I like it that when you mentioned that we're not just one thing. In different time of our life, we need a different thing. We do different things. Walk me through or describe that feeling when the puzzle kind of just fits together. Because I feel like that is kind of a euphoric or maybe just an aha moment for a lot of people. But I don't know, what is that for you?
You know what's funny is like I think every single decade teaches us a different thing. And I think 30s, as I am in it right now, 30s is exactly when that thing happens. It's that clarity moment where you no longer choose to put energy in things that don't matter because you're in your midlife, kind of. So it's only recently, the reason why I'm doing the all insecure love attachment stuff is because I think when COVID happened, there's a lot of things to reflect on about life. And I was going through many struggles as well, like even previous to, just when COVID happened, I was going through some struggles myself personally and work-wise. And I remember just thinking to myself, like, what does hard mean? I know that things shouldn't be easy. Because life is a journey and there's a lot of pivotal points. And, I know from experience, like looking back at my 20s, like there were a lot of moments where I was just like hitting many different obstacles, walls, and then coming out of them unscathed or some, like got me wounded. But then 30s was where I felt like, wow, these are all coming together. And I kind of want to quote like Michelle Yeoh on this, but I don't exactly know her quote. She said something about how she learned a lot of various different martial arts, different skill sets, because she knew as a woman back in the time when she was acting that not many of them were in like action, like in martial arts. It was a very, very tough industry to be in. But she always told herself that if she doesn't work on this now, the chance will never come. Luck is basically just you have enough competence to match the timing. So you can really rise up to the task. And I think for me, it's the same thing. I think I always knew, I think what I did know was that I have these tasks and these interests that were important to me. Like if I didn't make it happen, I would regret. And I had to let go of certain relationships as well because I knew that if I didn't do it in Taiwan, it would be something that I would think back for the rest of my life. And so I was like, okay, I don't know where this is exactly going to go to, but I kind of just knew that, okay, this is my vision. This thing where like I want to help people. I want to do something more sustainable. I want to be creative continuously. I need knowledge. I need to learn. I mean, that's the fruitfulness of life. If I stop learning, I don't have zest. I don't have excitement. I'm not growing. How do I do that? How do I combine my love for education with my love for sustainability, with my love for learning? And I kind of just crafted my own path because there was no other path I could go to. It's so funny because I even tried traditional pathways of education pathways. I tried to do, just one thing. I really suffered. Honestly, I remember my mom giving me a challenge, not really like challenging me, but she never believed that I could stick to something for a long time. And I really, really did. I really decided there was one time where I stopped doing, startup stuff. And I just went into just one thing and working for somebody else actually at the same time. And I came out feeling like, I don't like it. I don't want to do that ever again. I love to work on different projects. I love to work with different disciplines and all that. But I think at the core, like when you are an entrepreneurial spirit, you best believe you are because it was planted for some reason and you fight it, it's going to come and bite you, make you depressed.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think I definitely resonate with that. And I tried entrepreneur route and I was like, oh, maybe I work for someone that's regular salary, right? Supposed to be more stable. absolutely cannot do it.
Yeah. And like, I think I could even just like hang there because I had the skill sets of leading other people that made me more resilient and more patient. Like the kind of the work cultures that I would see that are kind of like, let's not even say toxic. Let's just say like basic human decency, the way you communicate, the way you lead, the way you coach. Like these are not things that are taught, right? Like I think there are some people that are just naturally born with the ability to just be patient with other people, the ability to put themselves in other people's shoes, the ability to empathize. But I think it's very, very different. These are very, very different skill sets from doing a good job. Like actually execution of the task is different from leading.
100%.
And I just knew that, and also the thing is, the longer you stay in environments where they don't invite you, they don't accept you.
They don't appreciate.
Yes. You start to really, your confidence and everything starts getting chipped. Right? It's the same thing with relationships, like romantic ones. It's the same thing with family. Because at the end of the day, everything is relationship focused. And if you don't know like who you are, like if you don't have a kind inner voice, you're going to get taken down.
Yeah.
And it's much easier than people think.
Yeah, definitely. 100%. I want to talk a little bit about this. You mentioned the era, you started business in your 20s and now you're 30s. And it seems like the puzzles are clicking and you're doing things. You're just going out. You're doing, you don't care what people think. You're just doing what you wanted to do.
Yeah.
And this is something that I've been talking to my friends. I'm in my early 40s. I'm 42.
Don't. I was just going to say, you look good.
Thank you. But I'm so curious to know, what are the people in the 30s worried about these days? What's the stage? Because I felt like when I was in my 30s, I think I worried about different things.
No, tell me. Let's see if we match.
Okay. Now, I think when I was in my 30s, okay, this is going to sound so backward and traditional, so
no, not at all.
Please don't cringe, guys. I thought I was going through the path where I had to get married by 27, I had to have a baby by 29. That was in my head. And then I did. But I was miserable because I had no idea who I was. That's definitely not the path I wanted. I mean, I love my daughter to pieces, but being a stay-at-home mom, not having a career, depending my life on someone else, giving that responsibility to someone else,
right?
That was just so wrong.
Right.
And I realized that at 35, that's not what I wanted to do. So I started this whole, self-development. That's why I get into coaching.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm here, because I knew that there's a lot of mistakes that I've made, and I'm learning from that. And I wanted to hear all these stories from women. But I feel like the women in the 30s now, I mean, there is a cultural difference in a way. We are coming from a different generation because you guys, you grew up with more technology and social media. And I don't know, I think does that match? I mean, I feel like I'm so old when I talk about that.
No, you're a millennial.
I am.
We're the same gen. I think that never changes, actually. I think the innate wanting of belonging never changes with anyone. And so I would say, I would say the concerns that you had at 30 is the same as the generation now. It's just that I think this generation has an added extra, which is career, right? Like, I mean, maybe back in the day, I think people's salaries could probably handle a family, right? Yeah. And I think a lot of times now is that, yes, there are still traditional cultures. Yes, there are still family structures where it's like, very male dominant in the family of like being the breadwinner, the provider. Yeah. But also now, I think the biggest difference is that some of the families is women being the breadwinner and the provider. Right? Because with marketing and social media, just certain industries that are more geared towards the feminine touch, and fashion and all this, like it's really taking off. And so sometimes like the money, women make more money, or like it could be even. But at the end of the day, I think it's like people want to have a family of their own. And we also know that there's a timeline, right? Just in terms of our health, our ability to grow old and see our children grow old is something I think we all think about.
Yeah.
And so that's why I have a lot of friends around me now that did their, egg freezing. I don't know how to say that in the proper scientific terms. Do you know?
I don't know.
Just egg freezing, guys, freezing your eggs, okay? And I actually went through it with my friend. Because before I used to hear about it, everybody's just so casual about it. Oh, just freeze your eggs, have freedom, have a great life.
Yeah.
I just wanted to get really real.
Yeah.
This is not something to joke about. Like, it is a lot of pain. I'm also my friend's emergency contact. And when I went with her to this thing, I was just imagining, like a couple needles, couple shots, you're good, right? No, you have to first take the blood test. And if anyone knows, I really don't like needles. Like I really don't like them. And I saw her just like, okay, you have to first get blood tests, and then you have to check if you have enough supply. And then they have to feed your hormones because, so that they can extract your eggs, right? That messes with your mood and affects how you show up at work. And people, you're not going to go around telling people that you're freezing your eggs. And managers aren't going to like understand, being like, oh, I'm like, there's a deadline, but you're freezing your eggs. Like, but that's the thing. Why is the birth rate so low? So I think the biggest stress for us now as women in our 30s is that juggling. Like we want to have good mental health, right? But what if we do this and then it affects our mental health because of our emotions changing, because of the hormone shifts, right? And then nobody understanding, which adds on further to the stress and the depressive episode. And then you also want to be a good partner that is like obviously fun, exciting, right? Adventure, going. But also you don't want to fully rely on your partner because you don't want to become a burden. I think now women face feeling like they don't want to become a burden. Because there's so much, language about female empowerment, right? Starting from like he for she, and then of course like the UN, and there's a lot of new bills passed. Yeah. Of course, it feels very, very good that we're progressing in life, right? And as a society. But at the same time, these are very real difficulties that every single woman is asking themselves. What is it that I really, really want? And will I regret this in the future if I take this decision? And we all know when you give birth, your baby is created from all the different cells you have, all your supply of nutrients, right? Yeah. So people end up, like suffering from hair loss.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Breastfeeding is like, adding to this, I saw my friend having to get a massage lady to get the milk duct flowing.
Yeah, I did that.
Oh my, how did it feel? It was painful, right?
I don't even know how to describe that.
I don't even know how to describe what I saw. like, I just remembered her lying on the bed. She didn't even care anymore, right?
No, that's the thing.
She cared about nothing. Like, she didn't care about being seen in that way. She's just like, get this out of me.
Yeah. It's so funny because at the time, my mom would just walk into the room. She's like, why is your boobs constantly out? I don't have time to cover it.
Yeah.
Because
you don't care anymore.
Yeah,
and look, I totally understand this. And then I think that's the thing also, like adding onto the extra layer of complexity. I don't think, okay, at least for me, myself, like I know that, women and men in the traditional sense is a really good team, right? We all have different, physical strengths. Yeah. We have different emotional strengths. And also I'm just generalizing for the public, a disclaimer, there are many different kinds of relationships. Yeah. But I'm just talking about the most traditional one. And, and then when you add on to like, okay, the layer of cultural differences, right? Because people now, a lot of them are third culture kids as well. They're traveling for work, whatever. And then you have another layer of like maybe age difference, right? Okay, then you have gen gap. Right? And then you have financial, who pays for what, how much, da-da-da-da. And then you add on to, do you want kids? And kids, when you have kids, what then, like how do you then, teach them? Yeah. Should it be private school, public? Anyways, layers of things. So I think as women now in our 30s, it's very complex and that's why I think understanding certain frameworks and also taking action on your choices takes away the anxiousness and anxiety.
Yeah.
I think I actually just want to come down to that as in because it's so complex, because we live in a world that is uncertain, with politics and all these different things, we're at that age where we have to decide for our future parents, their age, right, their future, as well as I don't have a kid now, but I want to have a family, right? And you have children. Yeah, we need a way to think clearly.
I love that. And I think that is a universal and may not be, the age doesn't really play a role in that. It's just that we need to take accountability for our own happiness
That's
at the end of the day, right?
That's right.
And I think women before, at least that's what the society says. And I know there were many progressive women, but what I was told, I married a guy and he would provide everything.
Right.
And then I think subconsciously you feel like I can just put my happiness onto this guy. If I put pure, like if I just provide all sort of love and offer everything I have, then I can get something back. And I think that's the thinking that got a lot of women stuck, right? So I think I felt like now I can say that I felt I was really lucky to get away from that thinking.
And it's really hard. That's not an easy thing to reprogram either.
It's very difficult because also at the same time, it's an unpopular thing to do, to get away from that thinking because I think everyone else around you, we're so used to you having that thinking and living that pattern. And then if you switch to another pattern, they have to kind of get to know you a little bit.
It's like you're rebelling.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah.
That's so true. Like, I don't even know how to start this.
I don't know why we get here, but
I think it's a natural, like, we understand this as women very innately that we have to deal with many types of grief.
Yeah.
Like it's not just about giving up. I think when you decide on something because you decided, right? I think the hardest and the most painful thing that some people have to go through is the grieving of it's too late. And I think, yes, there are many different coaches. And yes, there is this like positive movement where it's like, no matter what your age, you can always succeed.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's not true because some people, they really do. But I think, are we looking at the exception or the rule? Right? Like there's certain things in our life path that happens because of health. And health is very correlated to age. Just because it's harder for us to heal our cells and our cell damage. So, when these things are very like directly linked to our age, that's when we have to be very even extra on our own case, which is this something that is really healthy for me?
Yeah.
Is this secure? Are we treating ourselves with like dignity? Why are we doing something? And I would even go to say, like, I come from a line of very strong women. My grandmother, like, she learned martial arts. She fought off 2 black guys that robbed our house in South Africa. She got stabbed in the eye. Like, close to her eye, she didn't go blind, but she had, like, headache for, like, the rest of her life, starting from, like, the age of 60. She still continued to, like, continue her work, continue her social life, dress up, fancy. And my mom, she switched careers at the age of 50 into biomedical, when previously, she owned many different types of small businesses. She owned a gallery, just a whole bunch of different things. And she's very tough. Yeah. But you know what's crazy? What's crazy is that the fundamental thing of being saved is there. And I honestly think women who don't think like that are very, very lucky. Because it's kind of like being jailed a little bit. Like my mom, there was this one time where I had because I started practicing vulnerability. I was very bad at this when I was growing up. I was very, very like inner, like outside. I was very, very tough because I was sheltering a very soft inner child. But I just remember because there was so much shaming and guilt tripping constantly about different things. And I remember this one time when I chatted to my mom. And my mom's like constantly being like, oh, I really want you to, meet someone. And like, and it says like actually on your birth chart, whatever, she has like friends who do like, fortune telling and stuff like that. And I'm always like, don't show me.
Yeah.
Like, don't show it to me. I don't want it to affect me. And then there's this one time where I was like, okay, just show me. Just show me what it says, But the conversation was always around this sort of like being saved. Like, even though she didn't say, I need someone to save you, she didn't say it like this. But the fundamental energy was you need saving.
Yeah.
You need someone to protect you. I mean, on the best side of the conversation, it's like everyone needs a teammate.
Yeah.
Everyone needs social connections that support each other so that you can thrive, right? That's like the healthy version. But the unhealthy version is like, it's almost as if you don't see me. Like, after all that I've been through, do you see me? And I just remembered like saying to my mom in the most vulnerable way, oh my gosh, it's so like emotional. But I said to her like, you know what a daughter just really wants a mom to say is that you'll be fine because you come from like a line of like strong people,
Yeah.
Wow. So emotional.
No, thank you for this. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, by the way, I'm kind of tearing up. That's why you hear my voice shaking. But this is something that I think you, as a parent, like because I taught little kids. Actually, in the recent years, I've only taught like, for example, 9 and above, right? Like even till university, college, teenagers, adults, at corporate side. But I was like, I didn't really fully focus on the whole, like I didn't teach, 2 to 5-year-olds, right? Like, let me teach them English. And I used a chunk of my time to teach little kids. And I just remembered that moment when I was like, wow, like an epiphany, where I was like, this thing about attachment styles, the thing about co-regulation, all the previous grief, those things are real. Like I saw a 2-year-old, I can share this story. I saw a 2 to 3-year-old, I remembered being guilted and shamed in front of me, and I couldn't say anything. And I remember just being like, wow, like you start shutting down your emotions at that age and you don't even know you're doing it. And I remember this one kid, like he was a bit eager, but very smart kid. I love this kid. And, every time I didn't call him because he was raising his hand, he got teary. But the thing is, I always called him. So I had to let other people go too, like I can't just like favoritism. And the homeroom teacher of that class was like, yelling at him for tearing up, for showing this kind of like sensitivity and these feelings, right? Kids don't know how to regulate themselves. And she was like basically, saying to him like, oh, don't cry, blah, blah, blah. Like, like suckle back those tears. And then later on, I just remember like he was smiling. And I felt so sad. Because at that moment, I knew he shut down his emotions.
He's pretending.
He was pretending, and I saw like little like tears here, but he was smiling. This is a 3-year-old, And then I looked at people very differently. And like I just, such a grief.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that with me. I think we learn a lot about ourselves, and I think this is tough because we know that our parents did the best they can.
Yeah.
Knowing what they know, because again, they're carrying traumas as well,
Yeah.
right? And they're carrying, our grandparents carrying traumas. And we see that even though they're doing their best, but there are things that just didn't work for us.
Yeah.
And there are things that were damaging to our mental health. And we had to learn how to reparent. And I think that's, like what you said, it's lucky that we know how to reparent ourselves. We know that that's a really important thing to do. But also at the same time, we have to do a lot of work. And it's tough.
Yeah.
It's not just like, switching something on or off where we're just like, okay, life is great from here, right?
Yeah.
So, but I wanted to know a little bit more about kind of your start to understand the importance of learning attachment style, because it is a hot topic right now.
Yeah.
And I think, and there's so much to it. You can go very detailed, but at the same time, why is it, and let's start with that, why is it that it is so important for people in all ages to really understand their attachment style? And knowing that, how can they take this tool to really help them to move forward?
Wow, such a great question. I think attachment style is like a programming. It's a programming that we start getting from a young age so that we can survive better. And everybody has it. But of course, it can change, and it can also further develop into other attachment styles as well. So in total, there are 4 different attachment styles. And these 4 are, of course, you have the secure, which is what we should be aiming for, right? And then the 3 insecure attachment styles, which is the fearful, sometimes known as the disorganized attachment. We have the anxious, and then we have the avoidant attachment. And all 4 of them have very positive skills. And all 3 of them have very positive skills, and 3 of them also have very negative skills. And then I would say the best one, which is the secure, has a very good balance, the flexibility of what a good nervous system should look like.
Right.
So at the foundational level, everybody has a nervous system. And this nervous system, based on our emotions and also what is happening around us, like our thoughts, our emotions, what's happening actually physically around us, affects this nervous system. And this nervous system is the thing that sometimes, like, some people get sick very easily. It could be because of emotions. But if you don't even think about that, you're not aware of that, you get sick very, very often, and you can end up having a chronic illness or an autoimmune disease or something like this. But another thing is because, even the Harvard study, the oldest study on health and happiness, is relationships. It's not the nutrition that you eat. I mean, that's still very, very important, right? But even if you eat the healthiest and you don't have healthy, positive relationships, your body is not going to thrive. And I think just that fact on its own, very scientific, it shows you how important maintaining a healthy, regulated nervous system is. And that nervous system will then help you in your career, in your family dynamics, in your romantic relationship dynamics, so that you can have something that's secure and wholesome for years to come. Because it's a constant of tweaking. Yeah. Because I think, our brain is wired for the negative outcome, not the positive outcome, right? Because it's wired for survival. Yeah. And I got into this attachment style because for 10 years of my life, as I was sharing before, it was really, I wouldn't say 10, I would say for 20 years of my life, it was a struggle. Despite all the good things, despite the opportunity to travel, meet different cultures, make different friends. But on the flip side, it's always a two-sided coin, right? On the other side is you're constantly trying to figure things out. You're constantly trying to be accepted into a culture or another culture. You're constantly being rejected. I mean, the rejection starts young, right? The constant being really mean about certain things, about maybe what you look like. And also, if you're Asian, you might be known as, like, you're probably really good at math. I'm not good at math. I mean, like, I know, like, they have these stereotypes about how you should be, and then you don't fit in them. That's like, some people are like, oh, I fit in the stereotype. I'm like, yeah, I come from this kind of family, and I'm just really good at math, but I'm more than math. I want to be good at math too. I'd rather be the stereotype, right? Because, or like learn to play amazing piano.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Oh, come on.
I know violin. I know how to play piano.
Yeah. It's like, oh, but I want more to life. I think everybody has their own privileges, right? But I didn't have any of those types of privileges. The privilege that I had was freedom. I think now that I look back, it's like, that's pretty good too. But, so I mean, we all have a set of tools that we have. And then so for me, I think, having also divorced parents, right? Like, I didn't know my real biological father until I was like, I think 3. I met with him to eat dinner with my sister, right? Like, me and my sister, same parents, but we just never really grew up with him. And then I had a dad that brought me up who was from Guangdong. And, he taught me a lot of what a dad should be like. But then I also experienced, certain abusive behaviors, right? Either it be verbal or like physical, which I really never shared with people. I think it's because I'm so healed from them that I can just be like, oh, this happened. But I think that's why I had the worst attachment style. I think it always starts there, right? There's no going back, right? Like you're already at the back. So it's only up from there, right? And so I had like a disorganized attachment where I was like actually in an identity crisis where I thought to myself, why am I so chill? Yeah. But why am I so unchill? And why am I so pissed off about something? But why am I so anxious about another thing? Because disorganized has all of them. But they're all black and white. So what I'm trying to say is that imagine all emotions that you have, right? Yeah. Anger, happiness, anxiousness, aggression, everything. But the thing is, a normal, healthy nervous system is like, you know them. Oh, I have anger. Of course I have anger because it got triggered because somebody was, mean to me, right? And then it's just, oh, I'm really happy. I can enjoy my happiness too, right? There's a lot of flexibility in that. You're not blocking happiness either. You're inviting them openly. Yeah. And then let's say if you feel like, oh, disregarded, you might feel, a sting and you feel depressing, but maybe for like 1 or 2 days and then you get better and you cry about it, right? Crying helps regulate your nervous system. And you just accept that you're all these different things and it's okay. And you can speak up for your needs and you can say, oh, I need more of this or like that. And you don't feel demanding. Yeah. I was exactly the opposite of all those things. Like I felt like, wow, like this moment I have to not be angry. I want to keep a perfectness because if I'm in my perfectness, as in like I'm smiling, I'm being happy, then things will be good, right? Like I'm part of the community kind of thing. I'm part of being included. But that hits a breaking point, right? Yeah. It hits a breaking point where you're just like, I care about nobody. If everybody's going to treat me this terribly, I'm not going to care about anybody. And then you flip to the other side of just avoidance. Like you shut everyone out. And if anyone wants something from you, you just like, that's it. Like I'm not giving it anything. Do you see how that flip-flops? It's so damaging to your nervous system to be so unflexible. It's inflexible? Sorry, English is slowly fading. So, and then I realized like, oh, why am I so good with these groups of friends? And then like suddenly I just really don't like them. And it's not actually that I did anything to them or they necessarily did anything to me. It's just my mood and my emotions would feel so. And then that's also, I think, when in relationships as well, that this is actually where you see it the most, I mean, at least for myself, where, the people-pleasing also comes out, right? Because, if someone says like, oh, you're not doing good enough job here, let me do 100% better. Let me serve more, right? Let me get you to see that I'm actually worthy of your time.
Let me prove myself
to you.
Yeah.
That's just all nonsense. And then, but I mean, as a kid, as a young person, that's not what you're thinking.
No, that was how you cope to survive.
Yes, that's how you coped. And people are just like, okay, you're a teenager, now you're pissed off, right? Or like, oh, you're just always crying because my nervous system is stressed. But I'm not going to be like, oh, my nervous system is stressed. Like, no, you're just feeling like, why am I such a crier? Why am I so sensitive? Nobody ever telling me that it's okay. Nobody giving me the compassion to be like, oh, you're a human being. Like, who talks like that, right? This is like modern day society. People talk like this because of therapists going online and sharing their wisdom. So moving on, like I would say when it was my entrepreneurial like journey of my 20s, this is where things really shifted. Because when I learned the design thinking frameworks, I was using design thinking on myself. And I could analyze and I could see myself as a map. What's happening here? What are certain things that are triggering me and why? I'm asking why a lot. And then as I'm going through like the journey of, listening to everybody tell me how you should be doing business, how you should be doing that, I realized that I was in freeze mode. Like I felt like, wow, I can't even trust myself. Like everyone else seems to know what they want. They're much wiser, they're older, they're telling me what to do. And I felt like I was betraying a parent or something like that if I said no to their advice. But at the same time, that advice obviously didn't work for me.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what was right and wrong. Like I really lacked this discernment skill. And then in my relationships, I really have to thank one of my partners in my 20s. He was the most secure person ever. He had a little bit of anxiousness here or there, but it was like because he cared about you. And I just remember the story. So let me share the story time. So I was at a Christmas market in Germany. And in my past, I had this, when you're a kid, right? You have a teddy bear or something that you really love. And this thing is like your buddy, right? My buddy, my cute little elephant, was left in Melbourne when I was moving from Melbourne to Taiwan. And this time I told someone really close to me to please just anything else you can throw away, please just save this elephant, right? And like when they say you have like grief or something like that, you cling. Because you're so lost, you cling to something, you project onto it. So let me just say that I projected a lot of my comfort onto this elephant. And it's gone. It was not saved. It was abandoned there. And I just remember feeling the biggest guilt of my life. Like if there was a guilt, that would be the guilt.
It's like your baby.
That's like my only comfort. And it was gone. And I was so mad at this person. But at the same time, I was also like, I can't even blame them because it's my responsibility, right? I didn't travel back to Melbourne. And now moving back, this was in middle school. And then I went to college, right? I did my exchange to Germany. And my partner at this time, we were at a Christmas market. So you can imagine Christmas market, all like exchange students. We're all just like buying glühwein or eating snacks. And then I come across this stall. And this little stall had a bunch of different teddy bears in them. And there was an elephant in there. And I just remembered my brain moved into the grieving mode of like I really want to buy this thing because I want to project, like I wanted to like kind of save what I lost, right? But then I saw this other teddy bear that I thought was even cuter. But here's this is where I was healed a little bit. So this partner of mine, he didn't shame me. He didn't like say, oh, come on, that's so silly. He stood with me. I'm kidding you not, for an hour. I think an hour and a half. I think the total like travel time for this area was just maybe 2-3 hours. He stayed with me for 1.5 hours. And he said to me, listen, okay, it's very real, right? Like, the elephant, was your best friend, blah, blah, blah. But with age and stuff, like, people move on, like the elephant's in a better place now. And he said, you can have a new best friend too. They probably are best friends together. He's like, yeah, so maybe you should it was a moose, by the way, the really cute one. And it had like sack of herbs, the ones that you can microwave and they're like comforting. Right. It was just so cute. And then he ended up like convincing me after an hour and a half, it's okay to move on.
Yeah.
And then I bought that moose. But I mean, he really sat with me and held space and all that. And then I would say through that relationship, it really taught me about love, just absolute kindness and generosity and just wanting nothing from you back. It's just purely because I care about you. I want you to be well. And then from there, I started getting better and better and better. And then, with that kind of nervous system healing, I was able to accept love more, happiness more. Where, in the past, there's a feeling where, things are too good to be true. Like if things are good, what's the bad?
Right.
Right? Like what's the breaking point now after this?
You're waiting for it.
You're waiting for it, right? Like nothing can ever last kind of thing. But then, I learned that actually it is part of life to lose things and things to end. But actually the process of loving well sustains forever. Because, with our friendship now, like I don't, obviously romantically love him the same way that I did before, but I will always look back to that and be like, you're a good person. Also, I trust my choices. This is a good person. And it doesn't just end because we end the relationship that you're a good person. And I really am so grateful for you. Right. And I took that on with every relationship that I had. I'm really intentional with like my time with my friends, intentional with the people that I'm with. I'm getting really curious about them as well, like with my sibling, with my mom. You know, that's why I'm able to now have these like very vulnerable conversations. And you know how people say like, oh, you should just believe people how like on the first go, like people will tell you who they are. I think this is true, but 80%. Because I do think certain big shifts in our lives changes the way we see the world, our perspective. And with that, we're able to heal and become better people. So yeah, I think people do get better.
I love that because I think that gives us so much positivity. Because again, like I feel like a lot of people learn these attachment style and then put a label on themselves, and then they feel like, well, I'm just this, or I'm just that, and you can heal. But I think it's that notion of become self-aware and become intentional, right? How do you treat people? How do you interact in this relationship? What did you get out of it? Again, I feel like in all relationship, you see yourself from the other person. It's a mirror, right?
Yeah.
And I know that we don't have too much time. Again, like we can dive into this topic. We can dive into like women empowerment and all that.
Yeah, there's so much.
So much. There's one question I often ask the guests is how do you define soft power? Because I feel like what's really interesting is that everyone has a slightly different definition. How do you define soft power, and how do you use that soft power in your life?
I think for me, soft power is a knowing that you belong here. And you have to really feel it. Like you have to know that your life is really intentionally made. And with that, you show up fully. Like you show up fully and vulnerably and all in towards everything in your life. And I think that kind of presence naturally shows people like what you're made of. And and I think when you do that as well, it also helps other people show up fully. And I think that's probably the greatest power that we can have on each other. Yeah.
To show up fully. I love that. Yeah. And I know that you're doing a lot of these workshops, right? Because I think when this episode comes out, you would probably already had your next workshop.
Yeah.
So do you do this consistently once a month? What's the plan for the workshop?
That's the plan. I have a goal for myself, which is 10 workshops. It's been once a month at the end of the month. It started on the 22nd of January. And then I did a 22nd of February. I tried many different things. I tried, hosting them on the weekends. I tried hosting them on the weekdays, just to, like include more people. And for every single one, there are benefits to each of them. But I think I will continue on. Even though sometimes like the signups are kind of slow at the beginning, I end up pleasantly surprised. But I also told myself that let's say only one person shows up, I will still host it anyway. Because I think that's just what I am really intentional about this year. Just you have to just go fully into what you truly enjoy and see what happens. Yeah.
No, I love that because I also had a goal is to interview 10 amazing women.
Oh, that's great. And you're really like on a roll.
Oh, gosh. I mean, I'm just so grateful and lucky to have all of you guys and willing to sit across from me and talking to me and share their story and be vulnerable with me. And just like you said, you're all in, right? You're all in life. And you mentioned it, that this year is about all in, all your energy, doing something you love. And I feel that it really resonate with me so much, even though I'm probably much, much older than you are.
Can't tell.
But I think it's just, we're all in, I think 2025, that's the year.
Yeah, be brave,
Yeah.
be brave towards like this life that we have. It's as long or as short, but it doesn't really matter, because the only thing that truly is for sure is like this moment, really.
Yeah. I mean, I love to bring you back. We can really dive into attachment style, because I feel I have so many questions for that.
Yeah.
Do you have any final words for our audience today?
I think my final word is just go all in, because as Dr. Seuss said, those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind.
I love that.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. The Soft Power Project is produced and hosted by Sherry Fang. For any inquiry, please email us at softpower.u@gmail.com.